What?
The pledge.
Oh, pledge. I hear someone saying fudge.
I know. I didn't hear pledge either. Just.
I stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and we welcome all the guests and staff. Thanks for taking time out of your day again for this board meeting. And now we will go to our mission and vision. And Vice Chair Pearson, you want to start us off on our mission statement?
The mission of the Nampa School District is to ensure high levels of achievement for every student.
And the vision statement?
Every student is fully engaged in extraordinary learning experiences preparing for full successful transition to the next stage of life.
We need to practice. All right, so next item on the agenda is approval of agenda.
I move we approve the agenda.
I second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Next item is program spotlight. And I see Principal Wilson here. Dr. Russell,
Chair Kirkman, trustees, tonight we're honored to have the Columbia High STEM program here. We have Mr. Wilson, principal of Columbia High, and Jasmine Martin, who is the head of our program, and we're excited to have them come give us an update about the program and hopefully share a little bit around the STEM certificate that they've earned. I think that's a big accomplishment that we'd like to share. So, all right, Martin.
All right.
Well, thank you guys so much for having us come and present on the STEM Academy. I'm really excited. We've been a part of the Nampa School District since 2017. That's when we've started. And actually, just a slight correction, we used to just be for Columbia High School, but we've expanded to the whole Nampa School District. So we have students from Nampa and Skyview and Columbia, and we're really actually very proud of that because we want STEM to be accessible to all of our students in the Nampa School District. So if you guys would go ahead and put up the PowerPoint. So like I said, we've been around since 2017. And I also brought one of our seniors, Aiden Fry, would have been here, but he's sick tonight, sadly. So Martha Gallo is here with us as well. So she'll present for just a little bit here in a second. You can go to the next slide for me, guys. But as Dr. Russell mentioned, we are now a certified STEM program through the State Department of Education, which is a really big deal for us because it does allot us with money, which we always are excited about, and especially for STEM because STEM is expensive. STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. And tech, if you didn't know, costs a lot of money, but you guys probably do know that. But we're a 4-year program, again, for all Nampa School District students. We're housed at Columbia High School, and we do focus on those STEM-related curriculum. But specifically, we focus on that integration into our core curriculum. So we're focusing on integrating STEM concepts into English and into our history classes through our science and math courses, which is a little bit different, and we focus on project-based learning. And so, yeah, we just were given our STEM program certification, which allots us for $10,000 a year for the next 5 years. So pretty big deal. We did that this last spring. You can go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So I'm going to have Martha come up and just share some of her experiences in the STEM Academy. She's been a student with us since her freshman year. So come on, Martha.
Hi everyone. So like I said, my name is Martha and I've been a part of the STEM Academy this is my 4th year now. And I decided to be a part of the STEM Academy in 8th grade because I thought it was just like an advanced science course. Little did I know it was a whole program that I'm really glad that I signed up for it. It's definitely one of the best decisions I've made so far with my education. I plan to go on to college and major in probably science, the College of Science. And I think my favorite part of STEM is definitely like the tight-knit community that there is there. So I've known most of the STEM teachers since my freshman year, and freshman and sophomore year I took all the same core classes with the same group of students and the same teachers. And so it really allowed me to form really close bonds with my friends in STEM. And I think it prepares you to be successful after high school because STEM really pushes you to challenge yourself academically. So I think we're supposed to take like 8 science credits, and then I think so. I think it was about that. But it pushes you to take more science and math credits and STEM electives, which I think is definitely going to help me when I get into college. And it's allowed me to explore my passions in like engineering. Because of STEM, I joined robotics. There's been I've made many memories because of STEM, like in the STEM walk-in that we have every year. We have multiple events that's like STEM exclusive, which it's made me really close to all the teachers and all of the STEM students. So really grateful to be a part of STEM Academy.
What are your plans to go on to college, obviously?
Yeah.
Any idea what?
So I got accepted to Oregon State, so I'm planning to go there.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Thank you. So I'm planning to go to their College of Science.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we have a lot of students who continue on into science and tech and engineering and math. Actually, one of our students, Ryan Vanacore, if you have ever heard his name, some of you probably remember Ryan, quite the student, but he is now working at Micron, and he was one of our original STEM students, actually. So it's really cool to see the full spectrum of where our students go, and just having them come back and put their skills to the test essentially now with our new students. So it's exciting to see where students like Martha are going to go and when they come back to us and how they're going to give back. So that's really exciting. Just wanted to go to the next slide, kind of touch on our future in the Nampa School District. We're really excited because we're in that stage where we're getting very established as a program. And people know us now, and students have heard about us. And again, we have students coming back to work within the STEM Academy just to volunteer their time. So we want to continue to prepare students to enter the Idaho STEM pipeline after graduation. That's a really big deal, especially in Idaho. We have a lot of STEM careers, especially within the tech industry, and we want to be able to provide those businesses with Idaho people. We're really wanting to make sure that happens. We also want to continue to be established a program with over 215 students from all 3 of those high schools. That's a really important thing to us. And then also one of the things that we've noticed within our STEM program is that we produce students who are going to be going into our career and technical education programs, which is a really big deal because we have an awesome CTE program within the Nampa School District. And then also we produce graduates who are going to receive their Idaho STEM diploma from the State Department of Education. So Martha touched on that, that to receive your STEM diploma, you need to have 8 science credits, 8 math credits, and 5 STEM related credits. So that does push our students to continue to take those courses within our school district. And that's our short little presentation. If you guys have questions, please feel free to ask.
Yeah, those students who will graduate then with that STEM, will they have any kind of insignia on their robe? Okay.
Yeah. So they get a cord for their STEM diploma, but then they also have, the State Department of Education actually provides us with a STEM diploma seal, essentially, that goes on to their diploma as well.
Great.
And then there's scholarships coming through the STEM Action Center with that as well.
Do you still have that presentation up? Sorry, I want to go back to that one slide, and you mentioned that you get $10,000 up to
5 years this year.
Yeah. Go back. Yeah. So it says state funding of up to $10,000 a year. Is that how do you get to that threshold of 10,000?
Yeah. So it depends on our program's needs. So that's forthcoming since we just were certified. Literally just this last week, State Department of Education was like, "Yep, you're good to go. You're a certified school." So that the funding and kind of how that works out will be coming this spring. So that's what I get to work on. It's like, where's all that money going to go and what can we use?
Yeah, that's the fun part.
Yes, that is the fun
Where
part,
do you spend the
spending
money?
it.
And so you'll recertify in 5 years? So certifications every 5 years. Okay, fantastic.
I have 2 questions. Can you explain a little bit more about the pipeline? That was the first question. And the second question is what does it take for us to become certified? What were the steps that you had to take to get that certification?
Yeah, for sure. So the pipeline, actually, I believe it was back in 2016, 2017, when there was a collection of science people and math people who got together through the STEM Action Center just to talk about, like, hey, we have a pipeline that is a merit in Idaho. So So that just means that essentially where STEM related careers are getting their people is from outside of Idaho. And so we want to actually make sure that our Idaho residents are the ones that are getting hired.
I love it.
So that's a big deal for us.
Yep.
And so then the second portion, getting STEM certified, you do have to be a school, a STEM program for a couple of years. You go through the STEM Action Center and Cognia to go ahead and go through their steps. It's a pretty long process. It took, I don't know,
A long time.
100 hours of compiling lots and lots of data and lots of evidence. They have 4 specific domains that you're going to show evidence for 4 subcategories. So there's essentially 16 different things that you're evaluated on. So you submit a full portfolio on those 16, and then you have an in-school visit, and they come and interview students and parents and other stakeholders as well as teachers, and just go into the classrooms and see, hey, do you actually meet what Cognia has signified as a STEM school.
That's amazing. Thank you. Thank you for
You guys are
explaining
doing
that.
a great job. Is there anything that we as a board can do to help raise the awareness of what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe 20,000 a year instead of 10,000?
So Dr. Russell, Dr. Russell actually, was it 2 years ago? Yeah, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago when we made the decision. We were like, hey, we need some extra money. We came actually to our superintendent and we're like, we want to get certified, but it's going to take some funds. We need some money to make sure we can actually do this because it was a lot of work. And so you guys actually gave us $10,000 to be able to do that work. So that was a really big deal. So I would say funding is always helpful, having the ability to have teachers who can work within the STEM Academy. And then also in the future, having potentially a vice principal to be head over the STEM Academy program. Sometimes Corey and Mr. Wilson, you and I will talk about just envisioning the possibilities for the Nampa School District within STEM. There are so many grants out there for STEM opportunities. There's so many opportunities for STEM. And that's almost a full-time job, probably 2 full-time jobs in itself to actually be able to access all of those is the real fact of the matter. And so that's just something to be thoughtful about of like, hey, we have a program already in place in the Nampa School District, and just to be able to continue to grow that in ways that will help it trickle down to our middle schools and our elementary schools and just continue to expand that influence is important.
Great, we'll be waiting for recommendations from the superintendent of this.
Chair Kirkman, Trustees, a lot of ideas around STEM, and
Yeah.
some of this I need to sit down with this Martin, but you mentioned earlier, if you remember, Sherman became a Idaho distinguished school around STEM, and we would love to have a dream of building out more of a stronger pipeline, providing more opportunities for all the kids to be a part of it, and just grow the program. The staff has an incredible job. It was a lot of work to get those 16 things done. I saw the paperwork. And wow, it's a lot of time on top of their full-time job, so they did an incredible job.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
Thank
guys.
you.
Appreciate you listening and inviting me.
Thanks for coming. Congratulations on your acceptance to OSU.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
You're a duck, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a
It's a
duck.
beaver.
Oh, a beaver.
Don't mix them up.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I know, that's recorded, it's out of the phone now, yes. I'll never forget. You're a beaver. Fighting words, right?
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Who's the duck?
So, or.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Now you got me to lose my train of thought.
OSU people will love that you said that.
Right, on record.
So the next item on our agenda, since this is the first regular meeting of the new year, by statute, we are required to attend to business for the year. So we will have an election of a new chair, vice chair, board clerk, treasurer, the calendar, and selection of legal counsel. Ms. Lamont, did you have a way that we were gonna do that as far as like ballot and whatnot, or just?
No,
I think we weren't, we didn't discuss doing a ballot.
Just voice vote.
Right, I think we were gonna entertain if anyone at the
We'll
table.
entertain the motions and
Or
then
would
just do a
entertain
voice vote.
one, yes.
Okay.
Once you get a motion on the table.
Yeah. All right, so, let's start with A, election of chair. So I will entertain a motion.
I would like to make a motion.
All right, I'll entertain it.
I move to elect Brooke for chair of our.
So a motion has been made to nominate trustee Taylor for chair,
Second.
and it's been seconded. Any discussion on the motion?
I would like to be chair. That way it's all out of the way.
Well, it's more than that.
No,
I love how she truly cares for people, especially for the kids and for the district. And she's definitely 110% in. So that's definitely what we need.
thank you.
Any other discussion, comments?
I still want it.
Okay. You haven't changed your mind?
Nope.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? You got it, Chair Trustee.
Okay, got it.
So as chair, does she take over the rest of this?
Yep.
All right.
You pass the
Just hand me
gavel.
the gavel.
Just pass
You
the
just stay
gavel.
right there.
Might be easy just to stay chair.
Okay, we're gonna move on to B, which is the election of our vice chair. I'll entertain a motion or discussion on the topic.
I move that we elect Jeff Kirkman as vice chair.
I second. Oh, I can't second. Oh, I can. I second.
Just can't make the motion.
We can. Can I speak to my motion? I think, one thing I think trustee Kirkman can probably testify that you learn a lot. Being in the chair position, I think it's a much bigger fire hose than the fire hose the rest of us are drinking out of when you start. And I think not only obviously you have the support of all of us, but I think, Jeff, that you've been doing a wonderful job and you bring a lot. And I just think you can continue to help and support. And it would be nice to have someone who was like, yep, just went through this, like, hey, FYI, like, don't forget to think about this and support in that way.
Being kind of how we have done with you.
Yes.
Yes. I'll speak to that as well. I totally agree. I think it's so nice to be able to bring the knowledge that you've gained in this last year and the perspective that you've had. And I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I just want to work on making it turn faster. So I totally agree and think that everything that Mandy said is right on par with bringing that knowledge. And it is a big, big job. A lot of things that you're doing on a daily basis people don't see, but I have so appreciated the way that you have really reached out to and built relationships with our district.
If I can say something, I truly admire Jeff. He wears so many hats and he still puts his time with the board and he's done a heck of a job. But I think we need to give people new experiences. And that's probably why I'm not gonna go for it.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay, so we
Can
have,
I ask a question?
yes,
Who else would you like to give a new experience to?
I don't know, whoever wants it. He's a right.
I only ask because you're the only one who hasn't been a vice chair.
So,
You and Jeff actually are the only two that haven't been a vice chair.
Okay.
I mean, and other than Brooke.
And I'd be willing to take it
Okay.
for the experience. But I can't, it's not.
You can nominate
nice to
yourself.
give it.
well, right now we have a motion on the table.
Can we talk about
Yes,
how,
we can.
I mean, I feel like we got how you feel, Marco, but I'd like to know, Jeff, kind of how you feel about it.
Oh, I'm
What's your-
fine with being the vice chair. I think I'm looking forward to stepping away from the chair. It is pretty involved.
Yeah.
Getting through this first year, the first couple of months were a little bit rough, and had a lot of conversations with staff and did a lot of relationship building and worked with legal on a lot of things and getting through some of those. And I think we've hit our stride. I don't think it's a stride that will stay in forever, but I think we've hit a stride. And so I am, if somebody else wants to be vice chair, I'm open to that too. I really don't. I think, well, as Trustee Taylor as a chair, she's a strong presence and she'll do the job well as chair, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, but I mean, if I'm voted for, I'm more than willing to accept and serve as vice chair also.
Any more discussion? Nope. Anybody over there? Okay, well, we do have a motion on the table. So it's been motioned and seconded for Jeff as vice chair. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Nay. Nay. So I have a 3-2 motion passes. Jeff is vice chair.
I did not hear Jeff's vote though.
Oh, I voted aye.
Okay.
He voted aye.
Sometimes I can't hear it. It might be your microphone, Jeff. It's
No,
not
I'm
the first
just,
time.
I'm just chilling.
Okay.
No, I voted aye.
Okay, so we are now on to C, the election of our board clerk. And again, I'll entertain a motion or discussion.
I have a motion. I motion to appoint Chrissy Lamont as board chair and to have the board chair, whoops, as board clerk, sorry, and to have the board clerk the board chair work with Lamont on negotiating and finalizing the agreement for the board approval timeline determined as soon as possible, not take 60 days. Since
I
we have,
second that.
I love it.
Yeah,
Second
me
it.
too.
Okay. Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Can I amend the emotion, or can I would like to amend the motion. So we do have to,
So
actually, I need a second
You-
for my amendment,
You need a second for your amendment.
otherwise.
So,
You can make your amendment.
I think I have to have a second first, don't I?
You have to,
I don't know what
you have to make a motion to amend the motion to and say what it is and then wait to see if there's a second.
So we have a second already, so we have discussion. Do you want to actually discuss maybe what you want to do so that we can all hear what your thoughts are?
I'm just thinking 30 days. I think we've done a year and we need to get a contract in place. And so I don't have necessarily a problem with 60, but I'm like, let's get it done. Like,
Yeah.
so.
You can have trustee Pearson amend her motion and trustee Valia can support it and it would be a quick,
Yes, it would be quicker
if you want.
if you wanted.
So what does that look like?
So
So,
we need it with 30 days.
you know, because there's all these meetings that are still coming up, we would have to put another meeting in within 30 days.
By February 9th.
Is there a meeting that we can attach, can we attach this to a meeting we already have scheduled?
We haven't scheduled our yearly meetings yet. We
Right.
could-
So for February?
Yes.
Okay.
Or maybe even the language is saying by the regular February meeting. Instead of the 30-day. I don't have a calendar.
Are you
yet,
comfortable with that,
but-
trustee Pearson?
Well, we don't know what that meeting might look like.
Yeah.
Change.
I would say,
It's probably not gonna be on February 9th, but just FYI.
and I guess normally I would try not to butt in too much, but, trustee, so we have a new chair. For us to get a, contract negotiated within that time frame, do you have the time in your schedule? Because I can make it.
Yeah, I can make it. I feel like I can make it. I just want to try to be cautious, maybe even the 45 days because of what trustee Pearson is bringing up about meetings and first year stuff. So
It does
if I'm
say,
gonna chime in, I would actually say the 60 days, but not because I'm not with you. It needs to happen swiftly.
it does say as soon as possible and not to exceed.
Right.
Was the motion that I
Yeah.
have written.
So let's let it stay.
So trustee Pearson, are you deciding to let it stay?
Yes.
Trustee Simpson, is there any more discussion you would like to have?
Nope.
Okay, trustee Valle, is your second still good?
Yes.
I would
So-
like to speak just a second on that motion. So I've been able to work with Clerk Lamont for the past year in a different relationship than others on the board. And her knowledge, her depth of knowledge, her breadth of knowledge, she's been able to to help this board in many, many different ways that I just think she's done an excellent job. And she's just a really good asset to this board and to the district, so I support her 100%.
Okay, if that's the end of discussion, all in favor?
All right,
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we are going to move on to D, the election of the treasurer. I will entertain again discussion or a motion.
I'll make a motion that we nominate Randy Dewey as the treasurer for the board of trustees of the school district.
Second.
Okay, it's been motioned, seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Sorry, Randy.
All right, we're gonna move on to E, which is the board calendar for 2023. Again, I'll entertain discussion or a motion.
Chairman, do you mind me providing a little bit of feedback?
Not at all, I would love feedback.
And I don't think I need a microphone, my voice carries. When we're working on our board packet process and moving forward, I don't know if there's, if we want to entertain possibly holding the meetings on the third Monday of every month versus the second, just because I think with the board packet process and the financial end of the month date and getting everything for the board packet and hitting our deadline and giving you guys enough time to review the packet would be a great option to think about so that we can review moving forward and see if that would work better than the second, because the second is such a tight time frame with the end of the month and getting all those financial reports and other documents for the board packet is something I would request you guys consider.
I would agree
Such
with
good
that.
insight, yeah.
Because we did come up against some deadlines and we were pushing staff to get things in and then having it posted for the board to review. I think that's, I agree with that.
I have a motion.
I love it.
I motion to set the regular board meeting on the third Monday of the month unless falling on a holiday. Will be allowed the following day.
I second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. We are now going to move on to the selection of the legal counsel, which we have our esteemed legal counsel here. So, Brent, anything that you want to say? Briefly,
I've
but
never met an attorney that couldn't say something. I just want to say I really enjoyed working with the staff, from Greg to Gwen to Courtney, to Steve, and all my different areas, and with the board, and Jeff, and with Brooke, my primary contacts, and Chrissy, of course. And I think it's great. I think the team has really grown since I've started 2 years ago. I think I've noticed the increased efficiency and better decision making, and I've really enjoyed that process. Now this year I will be asking for a $5 raise, which is a 2.5%. Since COVID, our overhead costs have just gone through the roof, and so I've been requested by my partners to see if we can't get a little more in. But otherwise, all the terms of the contract are identical. So that's all I've got right now. If you have any questions, otherwise I'll go sit down. That's it.
thank you. Any questions?
Okay.
All right. So I will entertain discussion or a motion.
I move that we approve the agreement with Anderson, Julian Hall, for 2023.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, guys, and that was the organizational items that we needed to take care of. That has been done. We are going to move into comments, and we will begin with the NEA. Mr. Coffey, if you want to come up.
Good evening. Thank you for giving us this opportunity, and I know it's been a while since I've been able to appear in front of you. But when we weren't able to make it, it was very clear to the members that we wanted to keep this spot, so it's definitely appreciated. Happy to have the bargain for next school year open. I listened to the governor's speech today, and he mentioned how parents are partners with the state for schools. And my hope is that at the local level, the association is viewed as a partner as well by the school district and by their community. And that's the way that we can view our relationship. The interest-based bargaining process, which many of you attended, both the training, and we have 2 members on the actual team, to me is a wonderful way to help facilitate that partnership. But I don't know that it's necessary. If we view each other as real partners, we can use any process to engage in that partnership. I do think the IBB process is very helpful for that. It makes it easier to even utilize resources like Mr. Dewey, Ms. Hamlin, who can help us with with the information, which can be so critical. The blue card process was completed on time. The details of how that all was going to work out wasn't really addressed. We hadn't done it in a while. I'd never done it myself, so now they got a little bit wonky. And so, thank you for working with us to get through that. I'm excited for this year. We have a shifting economic environment, I would say. More competition than ever before in education, and more probably coming. And so it's a different world than it was 10 years ago. One of the things that the governor mentioned, though, was that the things that we do today have a lasting impact. And so students and staff and community members are living with the effects of decisions made 10 years ago by the people who sat in your same chair, for better and worse. And so in the same way, what we do will also impact people in the future. One of the things that I take satisfaction in is that we now have the best, or at least some of the best, health insurance benefits in the state. That was something that was done together, and the district it really made that happen, to the great surprise of most everybody else in the valley. I can tell you, in terms of other associations that are working with their districts to try and get the benefits. Very few districts were able to do that. So that was an excellent result, I think, of a partnership. The bond that's coming up, I anticipate that the local association here and the state association will support that bond. And in the past, we have done things like phone banking and reach out and get out the vote, even all kinds of efforts like that. We use the IEA's kind of technology, some of their phone and texting applications. We can use that. We have volunteers, and we can speak to the community as our position as teachers. So it's not necessarily the association. I don't call people as the association president. I'm a teacher at Nampa High, and I know that can have an impact, and so we fully intend to support that. The last thing on my list to talk about involves Ms. Lamont in the board clerk position, and I'm really just passing on some feedback. So I was given a specific request to address this issue, and so not really knowing how to do that diplomatically. I know Ms. Lamont's sitting right here, so I thought I would just read the word that was sent to me. So, quote, "I've spoken with 7 teachers," and this is from one building, "who are irritated with the situation concerning the clerk, mainly her pay, her wanting money for benefits, the number of hours she is billing, the way she was hired, and the biggest is her legal troubles," end quotes. To me, the key issue is the idea of a standard, and perhaps a double standard. Teachers are held to a very high standard in terms of things that subject us to being put on administrative leave, for instance. I know that I assume that you deal with these in your executive sessions. In my short time as the president, I've become aware of many, not many, but more than I thought, instances where even just based on accusations, that teachers were put on administrative leave. Sometimes those accusations become charges. Sometimes they become convictions, but oftentimes they don't. When a teacher is exonerated, though, they were deprived from that from the classroom. They don't get to work in the classroom. There might be arrangements made which are appreciated to keep them on the paid leave, but it's a very high standard that we're subjected to. And so, to me, the issue is not so much about Ms. Lamont personally, or certainly any of the work that she does. It's really about the board and how the board has handled this, how there still isn't a contract a year later. It hasn't even on the agenda. And so, as you make that decision, I just want to let you know that people are keen and are watching this issue. And to me, it's really about a reflection of the district's values, the board's values, and what your standards are. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coffey. Any discussion or questions or comments?
I do, like, no, I really appreciate it. I think, the association with the teachers, I've seen so much good. So, I want to say thank you to you representing all of them, right? Or the people that are signed up. I do want to say that there are 7 teachers out there that may not be happy with the situation, but obviously there's going to be thousands or hundreds that are, because we haven't heard from them. So even though we do appreciate it, not every decision is liked, and 7 is not enough for me to judge about those. Thank you. So thank you for bringing your thoughts and their thoughts.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Coffey. We are going to move on now to trustee comments and updates. We'll start with the brave one and go left.
I assume that's me.
Staring straight at you, brave one.
No, I just, happy January, right? Moving into the second half of this calendar school year and yet another year working with these fine people. And I agree. Trustee Kirkland brought up that, we've hit a stride, or we're working and growing. And I feel like our stride is that we're continuing to work together and grow together. And I really just want to thank you all for the time that y'all are putting in, and appreciate each and every one of you.
Thank you, Mandy. Trustee Grayson. I just wanted to thank the community, the district, and everyone for the opportunity for this position. It's been definitely a learning curve. There's a lot that we have to go through and go over and learn. There's a huge learning curve. And it has been bumpy in the beginning, new superintendent, new trustee. So there's been a lot of extra things going on, but it's been a wealth of information and knowledge and learning, and it's been awesome. And I just look forward to learning more and growing and uniting in our success for the community, the students, and the district. Thank you, Trustee Kirsten. Trustee Kirsten?
Yeah, I have a couple of disconnected thoughts. So one is just working with staff. I just really appreciate the professionalism, the responsiveness from staff. I think not only do I think the board has kind of hit a stride, but I think that the staff are really in sync. And I can tell that, I can feel it, and I can see it. From technology to operations to from the superintendent, I really do feel like there's a lot of, I don't know if this is a word or not, syncness going on with our district staff, and that's huge. I think more so than the board. So, we got some emails from Ms. Lamont about scheduling the graduations. And that was kind of a reality hit when I sat down with my daughter, who's a senior this year. And I think it was a reality smack in the face for her too, because graduation dates are set now. And so looking forward to that date and graduating in a new class and off to see bigger and better things. And, that just always kind of tugs at my heart. Not only do I have a daughter that's going to be graduating, but all of those seniors are going to be moving on. And so it just made me pause to think what you as staff and district staff and our teachers are doing with these young minds. So just some comments on that.
Yeah, I love that. So I'm going to echo that. Greg brought the A team. I'm going to echo that. I have just watched a massive amount of progress be made in a year, and it's just been incredible to witness. Tyler, you're still one of my favorites. But it's so awesome to watch it happen. It's so amazing to watch you guys fall into sync. I have loved the open and honest communication that I'm able to have with our administration. I want to shout out the parents that are still involved. Shalene, thank you for being here. Thank you for continuing to come and be a voice for the community. I have sat in your seat, so I want to definitely acknowledge, to me, I love that you're here too. So I want to shout out to those parents that stay involved, take us in comments, and really keep coming back to hold us accountable. I think it's important that we hold anybody who's elected to represent us accountable, and would be doing the same thing if I wasn't up here. So to both, I think leaps and strides have been made. I'm excited to do more work. When I first became a trustee, it was rough, but I have really learned so much, and I took this position because I wanted to change, and it has changed me, so I'm very grateful. The second thing I want to bring up is interest-based bargaining. Saw it. Definitely a new concept for me. One of the things that I will say is I did call Greg, and what I loved is when Dr. Russell said that this really gives us a place to put our issues on the table and really discuss them. And even healthy organizations have to do that. Even not, like profitable, but private sector. So it's a sign of organizational health when we can discuss those issues. And sometimes it's very important that we have a physical place to do that. So I really, really like that was the takeaway, of course, that Dr. Russell helped me see. And I totally agree that those processes are important. I know that Mr. Stuffer will be updating us on the bond information. So I've got some comments around there. So again, thank you to everybody. Excited for a new year. Very excited to be chair. Thank you to my fellow board members. This was an opportunity I really wanted this year, and I will move left to trustee by
Thank you. I guess I saved the best for last.
Ooh.
Yeah, my eyes have been open actually this year. I wasn't elected, but I was appointed, and I'm thankful for that. I appreciate everyone here. I think there's so many things that are going to be happening this next year. I know there's going to be a lot of meetings. I'm prepared for that. With the bond issue and a lot of the topics that we are going to be discussing. I know we can't please everybody, and we're not meant to do that. We're just meant to do the best for our kids. And I hope everybody understands that children come first. And we will do whatever it takes along with the district who is working so well. We're working so well together to make this happen. I see good things, people. I see good things, and I hope you do too.
Thank you. All right, Clerk Lamont, public comment. So we, for this meeting, are going to keep the practice of on our action items. If you signed up to speak on those action items, we will have you speak directly before those action items, but we do have a place here for general public comment. If we have anybody signed up to speak, we'll have you come up now.
We don't have any sign up.
For anything this evening. Okay, so we have no public comment this evening, so we will move now to the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as posted.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the consent agenda has been approved. We will move on now to our action items. We will start with action item A, the third reading of policy 2525 classroom environment. I will entertain a discussion or a motion.
Chair Taylor, I'm just gonna have Mr. Yarborough come up and just maybe share a little bit with the board.
Perfect.
Just a real quick changes, if that would be all right.
That'd be great.
Mr. Yarborough, will come here. Just real quick, snap it. We brought this as the third reading, brought this up in October, and in November came back and made some adjustments based on some comments.
Chair Taylor, trustees, Dr. Russell, thank you. Yes, we did, for the third reading, we have made some minor adjustments to the policy we reviewed in the November meeting. Those two changes are on line 26 and 27. An issue, if you remember back to that meeting, we had added the phrase or school approved clubs, which opened that up to curriculum in the school approved clubs. There was some concern from the board at that meeting about what would stay up in classrooms during times. And so we adjusted that if you look down on lines 37 and then lines 41 and 42. So we did add in the clause again, or school approved clubs in on line 37, again, taking it out of line 26. And then we added in one more additional clause, which reads, club flags and materials that are used for club meetings and school approved events during the duration of the meeting or event only. So hopefully addressing that concern of the board. And I believe that was the only, or the major concern the board had at that time, and we'll stand open for any questions if there's anything else.
Yeah, do you know if schools have like, I can't remember what month it is, but there's like months, like LGBTQ plus
To my knowledge,
awareness
Yep.
month, whatever it might be.
yep, to my knowledge, I'm gonna reframe my mind because I was gonna call you chair, Vice Chair
I
Kirkman.
need to physically move that way.
No, they don't. Now, if the club has something that they do around that month, but as far as the school having months of recognition, we don't have anything connected to the club side. There are pieces of first day in a history class, like Black History Month being February, or things along those that come up. But to my knowledge, there is no, hey, this month is for X. That is my experience speaking for the last 3 years at Nampa High. We didn't have any months were set aside for those.
Okay.
Chair, I would like to make a motion.
Okay, Trustee Ryan,
I motion to, that we approve policy 2525 regarding classroom decorations as presented.
do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, the motion has been made and it's seconded to approve policy 2525. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Okay. All right, so motion passes 4-1. All right, we are going to keep moving down. We are going to go into the school year 2023-2024 calendar revision request. At this time, Dr. Russell, do we have a discussion on this?
Yeah, Chair Taylor and trustees, Mr. LeBou will be coming up and just sharing. There is a modification that we'd like to make to the calendar. The calendar committee did meet and discuss possibly changing one professional development day, and so Mr. LeBou will share that information with us.
Thank you, trustees, for the opportunity to share a little bit. The beautiful part about the calendar is that it was, for the most part, done. So it was a rather short meeting, but there was one thing that was suggested, and that was moving that professional development day from January 2nd to September 29th. One of the things we've noticed with the number of new hires that we have is that frequently we're in a position where people are coming in maybe with some needs that we haven't been able to fully address. And so providing that professional development earlier in the year is beneficial, especially because it'll be right at that 6-week mark. So we'll have 6 weeks of data so that we can be very intentional in making adjustments to instruction and how we're supporting students at that time.
That makes sense to me.
Yes, all.
Chair, I would like to make a motion.
Trustee Ryan,
I motion that we approve the calendar changes that have been presented.
second. Okay, any discussion? Okay, motion has been made, no discussion, all in favor? Aye. And Mandy, I'm so sorry if I made that too quickly. Did you want to have any discussion on that?
No, no.
Okay, perfect. All right, wonderful. I just didn't want to be. Sometimes, yes, but I really value you all. Okay, so those are action items. We are going to now move into information items and reports. We are going to start with the trustee code of ethics. Clerk Lamont.
I made copies of the current code of ethics. That's also in your policy for you guys to review and sign this evening. This is also a best practice. It's also an annual required review of policy. So I aligned it with your annual meeting, so it'll always be there. And then once you sign it, if you can, I'll collect them at the end of the evening. And I was thinking about posting them on our board page so that everyone also sees that we are working to that standard, that gold star standard.
Perfect. I'm going to note that for our to-dos board page is where we're going to put those ethics. Thank you,
Yes.
Clerk Lamont. All right, we are going to go now to Mr. Stauffer for the Skyview cafeteria remodel.
Chair Taylor, Board of Trustees, thank you for the opportunity. We talked a little bit about this over the course of the last few months, but we have some renderings we'd like to show you of what a potential Skyview cafeteria remodel would look like. We currently have in the process of bidding this out right now, and I hope to be able to bring the final bids back to you for approval in February. But with that, Tyler's going to help me out and show, and I'll do a little bit of front loading, but I'm going to let the images kind of speak for themselves. Currently down the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see that is what the Skagit cafeteria looks like right now. It is now 25 plus years old. Hasn't had a lot of attention during that time other than good upkeep and standard upkeep. And we are finding that our kids are now straying away a little bit more from cafeterias than they used to. So we have put a focus on bringing an environment that our kids want back to our cafeterias. So the image that you're seeing is a collaboration between students, parents, the staff, and also the district office in building, and our food service, I should say. They've been a part of this process as well to build an environment where our kids will want to stay more so on our campuses. So we'll just kind of slide through this a little bit and give you a view. This view is looking from the cafeteria towards the entrance. You'll notice that there's lots of different types of variable seating. There's some both high bars, low bars. But one of the key ingredients that we know that kids, that attract kids, are charging stations. So there's lots of charging stations that we've incorporated in this design to help kids want to stay in our facilities. You'll also notice that there's quite a few TV screens. Another thing that brings our kids in. On these screens, we have planned to do not only some school-based advertisement, but have some news, have some in-house news from the students themselves. Also potential reviewing of some of their athletic competitions or band competitions, and even potentially some of the fine arts presentations that will be going on in the background. We hope, again, our idea is to bring the kids back. And so through this conversation, we were able to meet almost all of the requests of the students, which was our goal. To what do you want to have in this environment? We did look at the security to make sure that we would be able to monitor it appropriately, which we're able to do. You'll notice the ceiling is very different as well, because currently it's a standard ceiling with tiles, and this has more of a design to it to help create flow throughout the building. There's actually that little path that you can see in the middle right there. It's the path that leads kids to the cafeteria. So there's kind of that cloud type of base, but the brown is the pathway that leads them to get into the kitchen to receive their food. Also included in this one is some of our colleges that are here locally that our kids attend. We wanted to put a college wall up around as well, just for some aesthetics and just bringing that forefront of the academics and moving on. Again, we could go anywhere without having the sky view emblem on there, and so we have the Hawks. There'll be some more Hawk emblems that will be put in there. Currently, there is no representation of the Hawks in the cafeteria, so that was something the kids wanted. And this is the aerial of the mock-up of what that would look like. Now, what is neat about this is we've also incorporated some of the outside venue as well as the inside to incorporate kids who want to be outside a little bit. And so we've created some spaces outside with coverings as well. Here's a couple of views of what some of the permanent fixtures will look like. And then we also have some umbrellas that are there with the high bars out there as well. Incorporated will be a small sound opportunities for them to hold some activities outside and have the ability to have a mic and so forth to talk to all the kids out there. So again, that was kind of a rough push through to give you an idea of what we're trying to accomplish. We're excited about the work, and again, next month we hopefully be bringing those bits to your attention to take a look at and help us move forward with that project. Any questions on that project?
Jared, the current school cafeteria structure reminds me of a prison, actually.
It does, and that's sad to say.
There's a reason we last a long time. What is the lifespan do you imagine for this new chairs and tables? I mean, with the kids being a little rough, it's not going to be like that.
So these are all still school quality or school standard chairs and tables. And so they're supposed to have the same lifespan. Obviously, that takes into consideration normal wear and tear. They are movable so that we can readjust and have PD events in there as well as some of the dances. That was some of the things that they currently use the facility for. So we wanted to maintain that as well. So those are all movable items that we have, apart from the tables that are mounted to the wall. But everything else would be able to be adjusted. So again, our hope is a good 10 to 15 years for the equipment inside, but the wall furnishing should last another 20, 25 years.
Yeah, and I go to the airport often, and I always can't find the plugs
Right.
or the phone because they're always not working.
Yep.
And I'm wondering if, I don't know, if there's a plan for, I don't know, to fix them, or is there a budget set aside, because they do break down.
They
I
do.
guess it's probably not a high cost.
No, it's part of our, we do have electricians on staff, and so that would be part of those maintenance, general maintenances that we would do. If one would broke down, we would put in a work order and we would attend to it.
Looks awesome.
We think so, and we appreciate that support.
Oh, yeah, the rendering looks
That's a
amazing.
great idea. All you need is a Starbucks in there.
I know, that was,
I think our food and
Well, that's
nutrition
true.
director might not like that, so.
I have a question. I have two quick questions.
Sure.
What's the floor? Is it carpet? Like
So
this?
in the new one, no, the current one is tile.
Yeah, I
So
see
we would
that.
remove that and have polished concrete.
Okay, oh, that's nice. It looks beautiful.
Yep.
And second question, is the money to do that, is that from?
Is from the levy and from some of our food services for the furnishings.
Thank you.
Looks great.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Stopper, trustees? No? Okay, thank you, Mr. Stopper. We will go now to the bond update, which I think you are up again.
I think Dr. Russell and I will share this platform with you. One quick one that I do have on my end is that we will be turning in our bond resolution this week. Just want to make the board aware of that. So we'll have that finalized and turned in. We do have some good news along with that. Current bond rate is, we had quoted in the resolution was 4%. It is currently under that right now. So just good news, we're watching that continuously. So the numbers that we're sharing are very conservative for the bond measure. But right now, if we were to have passed the bond, we would be under that 4%, which would mean less of an impact on our constituents. So good news as of right now. And I'll share and turn the time over to Dr. Russell.
Chair Taylor, trustees, just a list of things that the district has been working on since the last board meeting. A couple of really important dates, and I encourage you as board members to maybe share these out as well. But on February 2nd and February 15th, we're going to hold some large community events in our high schools to help educate our folks. These will be at Nampa High, will be in our cafeteria. We'll have several booths. We'll have some light refreshments for folks so they can come in and start learning about the bond. Each booth will have various pieces of information for them. We'll do some live feeds as well on social media so that folks know what's going on. And we'll try to make it a good event. On February 15th is a game between Columbia and Skyview. And so before the basketball game, we're going to try to have that going on as well as people are coming into the event. They can learn some information and then go into the game. So those are going to run 5:30 to 7:30. But just wanted to get those out so we can start kind of advertising those to folks. We've got some information out to our staff and our admin just around the basic, what is in the bond, cost of the bond, et cetera. So those went out this past week or two ago. Started doing some ed talks as well around what's on our website so our community is aware of what is there. Trying to schedule some tours. We may do some virtual tours as well of the schools and the buildings so that the community, if they'd like, has an opportunity to just walk through the buildings to see where they currently are and ask questions. We're also looking at scheduling some talking tours around the community with some of the service clubs and community clubs. We have a good list already. We got some dates already scheduled. Continue to reach out and get those. We also have made some posters for businesses so that we can stick those in each of the businesses around town. We created those and we're going to be canvassing all over downtown, all over 12th, some of the boulevard. We kind of got a list, but we'll be walking and doing that. And we've also created a postcard for the mailer and have that ready designed. I believe the cost for that, I'm going to look at Mr. Stoffer. Is it 20,000? But we do have that developed, and we'll be letting you know when we're going to be mailing that out. Probably sometime later, mid-February, sometime we'll be sending that out to the folks.
I was just wondering if I could be able to look at that or review that before you send that out.
Yeah, Chair Taylor and Trustee Pearson, absolutely. We'll bring that up, a rendering in the February board meeting, so you can kind of look at it then.
Thank you.
We have a big event coming up. The Canyon County Kids Fair is coming up on Saturday, the 28th. 28th. Okay, I'm looking over there, getting my days mixed up in my head. The 28th, so we'll have a booth there, which will be a big one. And then we're also starting to schedule some media interviews so that we can get out in the radio, news, and print. So just continue working on trying to get the information out.
I saw your Ed Talk video today. It was well done. A lot of good information in that.
If I can ask, please remind me, at what point do you start gathering the community leaders to be part of this group to represent or to? Do you remember that aspect of this? Have you started that process?
Chair Taylor, Trustee Baye, we do not kind of work with them. They are a community-based group, again, and so we as a district try to keep that as separate as possible. I'm looking, and I don't know if Mr. Strauss had any contact with them since that. They are working on their own. I believe if you would like to speak with them, we can get you contact information so you can chat with them. We're trying to focus on the things that we can do as a district because we are limited in the things that we can and cannot do.
Any trustee, any other questions or comments? Okay, I just have a minimal one. So I have a slew of questions that I've printed out, and I'm going to actually hand to Dr. Russell at the end. But this was more about just definitions for like Columbia shows, new oxygen and capital renewal, and just confusion around those topics. Are we going to be addressing those with a beautiful rendering or video? No, I only ask, what is our plan just to address, like, so people really understand when we say capital renewal or things along those lines? How will we be showing what changes will be made to each school?
Yeah, Trustee Taylor, I'm going to look at Mr. Stoffer here to see. I know we have some renderings of Nampa High. I don't know if we've got any for Skyview or Columbia.
We haven't yet for those because most of those capital improvements, there's not a lot of renderings I can do for them because we're talking about doors, windows, we're talking about electrical, we're talking about plumbing. That's the major component of the capital improvements. So it's really hard for us to do that piece. As far as for the remodel of the additions, those are where we'll probably have the renderings available for that is for the additions to it. So for Columbia, the oxygen, we could look at what a rendition could be for that, and for the Skyview Theater, we could do that. But for the other major components of those two, they're going to be really the non-visible pieces of capital, which is capital improvements.
And do we have that defined somewhere, just like you said it? I wanted it to be on record here, of course, for those who have those questions, but is it defined somewhere else where people can find that easily?
Yeah, very good question. Chairman Taylor, we talked about this also in our work session where we defined those as well. So going back to that first initial meeting, we talked about capital improvements and defined it. On our one of our talks, we did it too as well, that we had sent out. But we can definitely do some more around that.
Or
piece.
even throwing it in the FAQs. I handed the entire conversation.
Yeah, Chair Taylor, I believe it is on the FAQs. We'll double check. If not, we can definitely get one out that explains a little bit what capital renewals are. It is kind of a complicated term for windows and doors and plumbing and electrical and some of the major things of any building.
Wonderful.
And one last note for clarification on renderings. Some of the renderings are not going to be as complete because they're just they're renderings. They're help to create the ideas of what it could be. They're not our official blueprints to move forward with it. So renderings are just more of the dream sessions of helping us to gather our ideas of what could be in there. Obviously, we'll fine tune those as the bond moves to its finality and hopefully passes. Then we'll start that process as well, fine tuning those.
And Chair Taylor and Trustees, we have been, there's a fine balance. You can spend a lot of money for a bond and get a lot of money in renderings and architects design, and if it doesn't pass, then
Right,
that
slowing
concern
down.
of possibly spending money that, was not as wise as it could be. So we're trying to get just a little bit of balance in that as well, and not going full out and spending a lot of money and not knowing that the bond will pass or not, but we want to make sure we get information out so folks can see that. So as Mr. Stopper mentioned, some of the renderings that we share are just that. They're kind of visuals, ideas, but they are not set in stone. They've not been brought to an architect at all and developed. And that's some of the questions we've got too around Nampa High, what will happen with Nampa High, and our recommendation is, based on our facilities committee, was that it will probably need to be moved at some point, but we have not paid, architects to actually design all of that and look through it all, because that is a high cost. And so it's this fine balance, and it's kind of tough, but want to make sure that we are very conservative with our taxpayer money, and that we get enough information we can so folks are aware, but also not overspend.
Yeah. Thank you for answering that question thoroughly, and you guys do a good job of both. And like I said, I passed all of those on to Dr. Russell. Anything else regarding bond, guys? All right, then we will move on to D, enrollment report, Dr. Russell.
Trustees, you'll see the enrollment report for January, and the administration is happy to answer any questions you may have.
Trustees, any questions involving the enrollment report? No? Okay, then we will move right on down to Mr. Jim.
I don't necessarily have a question, but just a statement that I'd like on the record, I guess, or just out there for people to talk, especially with the bond update, looking at that Nampa High is at 95% capacity. So a building that, that needs to be addressed and looked at and can be, and that's part of why we brought the bond forward, but looking at where that's the capacity of that building is our highest building, right? Or the building capacity is at its highest compared to the other buildings.
Thank you, Trustee Simpson. And now, Mr. Dewey, you're up. I was gonna try a song.
Walk-up song?
Dewey, like just something when you came up in the back, but I figured it would be inappropriate, so let it go. All right, floor is yours.
All right, well, I don't have any set presentation. I just wanted you to know that when I look at where we are in enrollment in our calculation of units. Now, I don't have a final number on our calculation of our salary-based enforcement average teacher, but our units, we're about 5 units shy from where we anticipated, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're under or over budget. We do have budget remaining in our general fund for salaries, so it makes me believe that we are under our average salary as well. I think ultimately in the end we'll be fine. We do have the backstop of ESSER funds for a couple more years, which is definitely helpful. That's why I'm not sweating up here regularly come the end of next year and all that kind of stuff. That's going to be a much bigger conversation where we are. In coming months, we are going to be talking to you guys about, and I'm going to reiterate every single time about our ESSER cliff. One thing we constantly need to know, we are spending millions, $14 million this year on ESSER type activities. Majority of that is on salaries, which is kind of what the government wants us to do. And the problem is you can't find a lot of one-time projects to do with $14 million left in that. So we are potentially going to have another year after this year of a lot of ESSER on there. But depending on what the legislators do this year, depending what they're coming out with increases in money, we might be okay. I don't know. Very conservative legislature coming in. And governor's priorities aren't real encouraging today, even though he touts a lot of money for education. When you look at it, he's using the $300 million he set aside as one-time funding as if he's giving a whole bunch of increases to people. So I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work. It just got it around 4 o'clock today. So a lot of hubbub amongst all the CFOs, as you can imagine. And one of the things that scares the heck out of me is it goes back down to ADA instead of enrollment-based funding, which when I just looked at our difference, we have a 60-unit difference in ADA versus our enrollment base. So that would literally kill us, and it would not make for a very good situation for our district. And we're not the only one, honestly. So that is something that we need to make sure it's addressed. I know they're working on a new funding formula this year. We have not seen or heard or any of that. Everybody has their own view of what's going on. And they're also talking a lot of school choice, which is fine, as long as everybody stays on the same playing field as us. So if you have any questions, we know the more to come, I'm sure, with this legislative session in February. I'll let me know a lot more. And depending on how fast they go through, sometimes they'll go through really fast, and sometimes like last year, it won't go through very fast at all. So we'll get there.
There was a comment I read today, I think it was from Speaker Moyle, who had mentioned that school districts are sitting on a lot of cash reserves. I just don't, I'd like to know where that
Not
is in
Nampa.
the school district.
Yeah, not Nampa. I presented a few times on that. I mean, they basically take all of our revenue, all of our discounts, and look at our fund balance and that, and basically said, look at how much money we're sitting at, $15 million. But the thing where I think we do a very good job on it, because of our problem with our fund balance when I came on board, we were negative, remember? And so the rating agencies and all that really want us in about the 10 to 15% of our general fund budget. We just tend to try to stay in the 5 or 6. Our 5 is our and that makes us, I think, one of the lowest in our general fund balances than anybody else. But reality, it's only $5 or $6 million. I mean, you're talking just this movement from enrollment base back to ADA could wipe that out and then some, and then we would be doing mass cuts, mass everything right now. So, and along with our ESSER cliff, that's not an enjoyable thing to have to go through with the district, but we would weather through it. We'd make the right decisions, but it would not be a fun venture. You guys would not like it either, I don't think.
So in light of that, is there discussions, Dr. Russell, do you and your staff meet with legislators from Nampa, and I mean, what does that communication look like?
Yeah, Chair Taylor, Trustee Kirkman, we have not met with our legislators to discuss our finances. I think if that is a question, essentially when we got an opportunity, I think Ms. Lamont or Clerk Lamont and I have talked about possibly our legislators over, that could be a topic that we could discuss with them. I think one of the issues with that comment is they see the bottom line. They don't always see every dollar amount that they earmark or how federal funds play into some of those state funds. And plus, it is wise budgeting to have a savings account. And now you don't want to have too high of a savings account, but you don't want to have no savings account, because if things happen, you want to be able to have a savings just like you would in your regular finances to cover some unexpected expenditures that may come. So I think it's one that's common. I know Randy has presented before on ours and why it can look that way. And I think maybe in February it might be helpful if Randy could reiterate that again, because I think looking at our bottom line, you can say, wow, that school district has a lot of money, but most of that money is earmarked or is federal money or it is our savings account money. And it's ESSER money as well. And so it can sometimes skew that.
Yeah, well, and all due respect to legislators, but they just don't know the details of the school budget. And I think that's what needs to be educated to them, if that's a correct English term.
The bigger risk right now is, I mean, there is a big push to get a lot of money in education theoretically. It's just about where our state has always put it earmarked monies. I mean, they don't tend to get money unless they're earmarked.
Right.
And I know there's a big push for school choice, which is fine. I mean, we can handle that side as long as we know what the parameters are and we're all on the same field, right? Yeah. And I think as long as we're all on the same, and everybody gets the same money and everybody has to have certified teachers and we all play the same game, then that's totally fine. I mean, I'm not saying it's good or bad for people, but one thing you'll notice is look at our rate of our special education population to some of the others. Look at it compared to charters, look at it compared to old school. You won't see anything like it. We're 14, 15% right now. When you talk about, we had 5 kids that are coming into the state hospital, we'll have to have a person, each one of those people probably have to have a specialized teacher for those. And that's $60,000, $70,000 minimum, right? That we're required to because they're up at the state hospital, right? So those are the things we address here and we have to follow, which I don't think a lot of legislators, they just hear the buzzwords. They hear the groups out there talking, the woke culture and all that kind of stuff. I think it's noise that we just have to get around and make sure that we actually get a good budget out of this legislature, and hopefully in the end they'll do that.
And Trustee Taylor and trustees, it is a complicated process. I mean, education budgets are not easy to understand, and I think it takes a lot of work. To Trustee Kirkman's comments, it is something that we probably need to work on, trying to educate better.
Well, at conference, I think one of the things I got the most about school choice is that there have to be checks and balances in play, because it's what prevents you from opening and closing, and then what do we do with all the children? And I felt like that was just such good insight, because there were 5 startups that I know of that started and have failed 2020 to now, and all those kids displaced. And so I would agree with you. I think that the same parameters are what are going to be important. So I appreciate the outlook that you have on it. But the other thing that I'll throw out here right now, just again for the negotiations, is I think that with how transparent you become with negotiations, it also helps people to see that we're not hiding money, because if we were, the teachers want it, right? Like, I mean, right? But I think that
And I have no problem
but
giving
again, I
teachers
think
their
that was another shout out for how transparent you've had to become for that negotiation process to occur. And so there's just all those little caveats that show that you're really doing a good job at making people understand that, yes, while it appears that this money is here, it is for this. So this money is here for this, and this has to happen, and here's why. So I just wanted to shout out for the process again of negotiations and what that's helped to do, so that teachers can see. Because if we're hiding money, we're going to have a lot of people upset.
Yeah, and we never have.
Right.
And
Correct.
The hardest
Yes.
part, the hardest part is when we have money left over, right?
Right.
We're like, well, you could have given us a little bit more. Well, try to budget your own down to the zero.
Right.
I mean, it's very, very difficult. When
Correct.
you're talking $100 million general fund, when you're off, you get a 1% saving, that's $1 million.
Correct.
I mean, look what we did earlier. We were able to allocate some of those monies.
Well, a
going
fiscally
forward as
responsible
well.
person would never budget themselves down to zero.
One would believe that, yes.
Right.
But and sometimes in those discussions, government has to go to zero, right?
Right.
Or we can't have new trucks, we can't do things
Right.
that way.
Right.
It's just-
Totally get what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
We're
One would believe that. Yes, that was very good. One would believe. But in just saying that savings are important, I mean, all the things that you guys try to do, and in my conversations, especially with Dr. Russell, fiscal responsibility is a top priority, and I appreciate that.
we try to.
Any other discussion or questions for Mr. Dewey? Nope. Nope. Okay, guys, then thank you, Mr. Dewey. We are going to move on to the superintendent report.
Chair Taylor, trustees, tonight we're going to share with you some information. In early December, Director Hamlin and I were able to move to a conference around hiring. And I'm going to ask Tyler if you would pick up that PowerPoint. We wanted to share with you a little bit about some of the things that we learned. This conference was geared towards HR directors, assistant superintendents, and other district leaders about how do you hire in the current job market that we're at? How do you retain the current staff you're at, knowing that it is a really difficult job market, not just in education, but really in any field. So we're going to share some data with you. We'll also share some ideas that we came through and talk about as we came back. And it was a very good conference. Not every conference is great, but I think this one was really well worth the time. So the first slide talks around, we're going to talk around 3 things: teacher shortages, retention, and recruitment. And the first slide really just shares some national data. Now, I think the key about this was there was a shortage in education prior to the pandemic. This is not all pandemic related. This was coming for some time. But the big issue is just young kids are not going into the profession. So the teacher prep programs have seen a decline of about 35%. That started in 2010 up to 2018. You look there at 05, what the demand is. So basically it's a supply demand issue. And the demand has gotten bigger. We got more and more kids that need educators, but we're just not getting that supply into the teacher ed programs. And this is across the board, not just Idaho, but we were talking with folks from the South, Pacific Northwest. There were some folks from Delaware. This is all around the country. Everyone is struggling, having difficulty finding teachers. And so just some numbers there that show that we have a huge demand, but the supply that's going in and graduating on top of the folks that are retiring, and you're hearing that with the baby boomer generation, those folks are starting to move out of the workforce. That is affecting the teaching as well. This next one talks around reasons for turnover. So one of the key principles was maintain the teachers you have. That was the key message. Like, keep what you have. That is, it's much harder to hire than it is to keep the folks you already got. So it talked around some things that have caused some turnover in education. Trauma and stress is one of the big ones. The salaries, the pay, the working conditions with just the class load and the amount of time it takes to work, and lack of involvement, decision-making. This is a really important one too, and we'll talk about just one of the things is few opportunities for advancement. So careers that are seeing people stay, employees are seeing that they can move up, and there's a chance for them to have a career in that field. And education maybe hasn't been as clear with helping teachers see that there's opportunities to stay and grow in the profession. So they encourage us to consider those things. The principal quality has an important part. The leader, I think just like any profession, the boss, who is your boss makes a big impact. And then there's a lack of respect. That was one of the things that they mentioned.
Are these in any particular order?
No particular order. They just shared some national data. I think this was just surveys that were taken from folks who have left the profession in the last, I can't remember off the top of my head, it was 5 or 10 years or something along those lines. This came from a couple of universities too. I think we did some studies on that. So just interesting stuff. This was, as I mentioned, one of the issues around the nationwide shortage. So 48 of the 50 states reported a shortage in special education teachers. Idaho is one of those. 46 states reported a shortage in science, and 44 states reported a shortage in math. And I would really like to know these 6 states.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna know. Tell us who.
They did not share that. I'm assuming someone didn't hand in the reports. But yet those 3 are the big 3. And we've seen those in our district for quite some time. I think, as I mentioned earlier, some months ago, it was starting the elementary, seeing a shortage there. It was kind of alarming to me, but we've always had needs for special ed science in that. This was a look at our state about the turnover. We have about a 14% turnover rate. It was not the highest. And I'm trying to remember, we were 38th or 37th or something like that in turnover. So there's definitely states that had higher ones that were kind of towards the back end. One of the interesting ones is, the retirement is only 4% of that. So that was this idea of you got to retain what you have. And so you can see the 3% leave, 7% moved out of the district. So this idea of how can you be the best district and keep the folks that you have. So just some thoughts, some changes that we could focus on. One is to reviewing our application tracking system. So one of the things they mentioned in a lot of professions is make it easier for people to apply, make it quicker, make it more efficient, make it a place where folks can apply and hear back sooner. And so we want to review our tracking system right now. It's a tracking system we have had for quite some time. Not sure if it's the best system to meet the current demand of the job market and the speed at which we need to hire because of the competition, basically us trying to hire these other school districts. The other one they mentioned was expanding social media platforms. I could not believe this when they said it, but I think they mentioned people now are applying more on their phones and getting jobs on their phones and using social media to find jobs. Using social media, like obviously Facebook, but they mentioned even TikTok and some of the stuff. I just couldn't believe that that's where people are going now, but maybe I'm starting to get old. It's just a reminder of, what does your district look like on some of those social medias and how to promote that so that you can be attractive to possible candidates. Update your website again so that jobs are easy to find, and we talked about our need for our website to get updated. Sharing our story. What kind of district are we? How do we promote to our community and our future folks that want to work here? What kind of story are we sharing out there? And then one thing they mentioned, and this was really interesting as well, is they asked how many of you, and we were all educators there, how many of you would tell your own kids to go into education? Raise your hand. And out of a group of about 80, there was probably about 5 or 6 hands that raised. And they said, this is your primary issue. The fact that we ourselves in our own profession, we even have our own children to consider it. So this idea that we got to really work on promoting our profession. Next slide, please. So one of the things we're talking about is expanding our Grow Our Own program. And this is really this idea of how to help folks in our district to see that they can grow and move within the Nampa School District, that you don't have to go to another district. So if you're a teacher, what does it take to be an instructional coach? How do you move into administration? How about school counseling and psychology? Just some of these other professions within. We're talking about possibly holding some classes for our folks where they can earn some credits, but learn about how they can move up in the system. This is something we haven't done in the past, but we heard some other districts have done that and had some great success, at least with folks seeing, hey, Napa's a place where I can stay and grow. Hiring sooner rather than later, and this goes back kind of the last point down there, is that hiring is actually all year now. This idea to think that you're only hiring from March until May, basically they said you need to change that mindset. You need to consider hiring all year throughout the year to find the best candidates as you can. So it also goes with being more efficient in our hiring process. Just a couple of things, posting pools versus specific locations. They mentioned the pros and cons to either one of those. Posting pools is just saying, hey, we have a third grade position in that school district. But they also mentioned some people really want to work at Reagan Elementary. And so you should post some positions so that people can say, yeah, that's the school I want to be at. So, we'll work on having probably similar postings of both of those. They said partner with some local universities to really start paying possible student interns so that they can see that, hey, if I student teach here, I might be able to earn a little money that helps me with student teaching, and I could possibly sign a contract with the state. And then the last one there is just recruitment is everybody's job. It's not just HR. It's every person can recruit no matter where they are, including school board members. Yes, we need everyone to help share the story of the district and why it's a great place to work. So we're going to start working, I think, some social media things and just trying to get some information out to folks about the benefits of working for the school district. I'm working with Tyler, and we should start seeing some messages about that coming up soon. Any questions?
Trustees, any questions for Dr. Russell?
Yeah, how long does it take to move an applicant to hiring? What's the average time frame? Probably Ms. Hamlin.
Well, it has to take posted for at least 5 days, because you have to have that. And then from there, I would say it's probably right now a 2-week process by the time and that's after the 5 days. I would say after you interview and offer and then get them in to do higher orientation is probably a 2-week process. So you add that 5 days, it's probably 3 weeks. It could be.
Okay.
So that's what we're looking to shorten that gap right there. So
some school districts mentioned cutting that time down, trying to get it as quick as they could. And they said there was one district in Sacramento, I believe, where they posted and they hired and they had a candidate the next day. Anyhow. There's obviously legality you need to do, but the idea was
exactly. Well, in this market, it is they got a shelf life. Those applicants have a shelf life, and it's not very long.
No, it's not.
When another job pops up, and so kudos to recognizing, obviously, that shortening that window.
Yeah, comments.
How long does it take? I'm sorry. How long does it take to get a background done? Is that in that 2 or 3 week process?
It's within that process.
Okay. Yeah. So that's not anything that's holding up.
No.
Nothing else? Yeah, I just want to say kudos again. That was an informative presentation, and thank you for looking into the root of the issue, right? Instead of saying it's something else, thank you guys for really getting down to the bottom of it and taking your time to travel. All right, guys, so we are going to move on now to possible agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. On the superintendent report, Dr. Russell, I think you were going to mention in an email about the money that I had.
Yeah, Chair Taylor and Trustee Kirkman, I did send something out on the Friday update around how we have been tracking some of the expenditures of the extra funds that the board has presented to the schools. Right now, the majority of what you're seeing are some added supplies and type rewards for students and things. I will have some administrators come back in February to share what they have done. We have educated the folks, our administrators, the purpose of those funds is to really impact students and to impact the student experience and the teacher experience. I still think there's probably some work we need to do with that, but just looking at the list, when I read it, looked like a lot of nice things for students, but I don't know the full background story with that. So we'll look at some administrators come and share what those funds are and how that's impacted them. And then we'll keep you updated. I think it'll be in February. We'll probably come back in April or May towards the end of the year, have another update since that'll be a full year. I suspect we'll see some of those things come up in May, but maybe also need to encourage our administrators to start thinking about how to use those funds over the summer to build some programs and some experiences for kids in the fall.
And these are those extra funds that were approved by the board, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Trustee or Chair Taylor, that is accurate. Yes.
And Chairman Superintendent, I believe they were budgeted in this fiscal year, so they would have to be expensed out before June 30th.
I wrote it down as a to-do just to get an update. And maybe I'm missing this. Did this update just come as a request to us or just because you were?
No, yes.
Oh, you asked. Okay, got it. Request from trustee Kirkman.
I got a response to that. My understanding is it was not needed to be spent this year. If that's the case, then I totally have a different conversation with principals.
I do know it was budgeted in this budget. I'll pull the motion
We'll
out.
pull it.
Yeah, and then
If there's
that way we
questions
can
from you.
verify it.
That might be a difficult conversation too.
Well, my concern is that we've told people to think
Right.
big. So sometimes that means multiple semesters and with our procurement ability and a lot of things, that would put a lot of pressure in getting a lot of stuff, like spending a lot of money towards the end of the year, which could put a lot of pressure on our schools.
Either way, if that's the case, then we're not in it. It would have to come back to us. So we still need to look at it, correct? Okay, we'll look at it and we'll just look at it and get the questions answered. I don't think that this is a fire. Okay.
Yeah.
And sorry, just because I don't want to cut you off, did you also want to give us a facilities update, Dr. Russell? Because I have moved straight on.
As Chair Taylor and trustees know, Mr. Stoffer had presented some of the facilities updates we already talked about, so I don't think there's any further.
Great. Any other questions before we talk about possible board meetings? No? All right, trustees, is there anything that you guys want to bring up about possible agenda items today? Perfect. And
I don't know if this goes with facilities, and I apologize. I was thinking as you were talking to this chair trustees. So I don't know. I was driving by South Middle School and the flags that they have on those flagpoles up there. Is there any way we can get bigger flags for those poles? I know this sounds like a ridiculous comment, but I've had a couple of people actually bring that to my attention. Those flags are so small on those huge flagpoles. It looks.
They just, the principal needs to put in a request.
All right, maybe it's time to go visit South Middle School. It was just, I know it's a weird thing to bring up, but people in the community, a couple of people have brought it up. Those flags look really weird.
Well, we should fly them with honor.
Yeah, they're out of place. Sorry about that, Chair Trustee.
no, it's okay.
If I can, I know there's a list, I think, somewhere there that of all the different topics that we've talked about related to this.
I've been keeping it on in the board meeting minutes, and I'm also adding it onto here, and I also have it on our accountability timeline for setting board agenda items. So I was just adding those items, and I have it in our board meeting minutes.
And I would like to make a suggestion to the chair to make sure that we address, there's some things that have been there for a very long time.
Wonderful.
And I know you have to look at that and see what.
Wonderful. And I'll make sure, just to make sure that list comes back to you guys in your email. I would say this week, that should be attainable, right, Clerk Lamont? Right, that should be attainable because you have been keeping listed, and when we meet on Thursday, we can make sure just so that that's fresh in your guys' mind. We'll get it back to you. Wonderful suggestion. Anything else, guys? No? All right, well then I will entertain a motion to move us right along.
I move that we go into an executive session for Idaho Code 74-2061 B, D, and J. B, to consider the evaluation, dismissal, or disciplining of, or to hear complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent or public school student. D, to consider records that are exempt from disclosure as provided in Chapter 1, Title 74 Idaho Code. And J, to consider labor contract matter authorized under Section 74-2061A and the Idaho Code.
I second.
Roll call, trustee Simpson?
Aye.
Trustee Pearson?
Aye.
Trustee Kirkman?
Aye.
Chairman Taylor?
Aye.
Trustee Bay?
We'll move into executive session.
Adjourned at 7:03 p.m.